Alright, Algebra 2, 4-7, the quadratic formula. Essential question, why is the quadratic formula important? It's important because there's times when you're given trinomials in standard form, or it could be a binomial, any quadratic where it's x squared, and you can't factor it, okay? Or there's some long drawn out way to try to get to the answer. As long as you have standard form and it's set equal to 0, you can solve every quadratic using the quadratic formula. You know, the difference of two squares, the fabulous factoring, all the factoring that we've done so far this chapter, you can solve every one of those problems doing this. The thing is sometimes it's easier using shortcuts like difference of two squares, factoring the trinomial, fabulous factoring. Sometimes those are shortcuts to getting the answer instead of having to go through the whole process here. But know that every time, if it's a quadratic, if there's an x squared in it, you can find x using the quadratic formula in all cases. Okay? So, what is the quadratic formula? It's this. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So what does that look like? Well, let's take this example right here. Solve for x. You've got the quadratic 2x squared minus x equals 4. Set that thing equal to 0. So subtract the 4 over and that's what you get. Noticing that your a is 2, your b is negative 1. Take the sign with it. Take the sign here. Your c is negative 4. Then plug it in. And then it's, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally after that. Okay? Minus b, so you got minus a negative 1. You can see that becomes a positive 1. Negative b squared, b squared, so that's negative 1 squared, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. I just plugged everything in. A couple things to be aware of. Yes, if your b is negative and you take the negative of it, it becomes positive. Okay? Squaring it here. And what I do is I leave the minus sign in here, and then I just take that as a positive 4 times whatever the other two numbers are. So in this case here, I get 4 times 2 is 8, times a negative 4 is negative 32. And I'll end up with minus the negative here, so I end up adding it to the 1. Okay? Because we know minus a negative means a plus. So that's what I do there. What people do sometimes is they'll take the negative with the 4 and they leave a minus sign there. If you make that a negative 4, that actually becomes a plus. Okay? Otherwise you're doing the double negative and you'll mess yourself up. So I just leave it as minus and treat that as a positive 4 and multiply it with a and c. Combine what I have in here, I get 33. If I can't simplify that square root, that's my answer. X is equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of 33 over 4. And remember, I talked about this in the last section, plus or minus, that means x is 1 plus the square root of 33 over 4, and x equals 1 minus the square root of 33 over 4. It's both. You got two answers there. Okay? Let's take a look at another example. Solve for x. X squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 0. It's set up for us. It's equal to 0. So identify my a as 1, my b is 6, my c is 9. I plug everything in. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's 6 squared, minus 4 times 8 times c, 4 times 1 times 9, all over 2 times 1. 6 squared is 36. 4 times 1 is 4 times 9 is 36, so 36 minus 36 gives me the 0. So negative 6 plus or minus 0 is just negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. A shortcut to this one was that right there can be factored. X plus 3, x plus 3. Because there's factors of 9 that add up to 6, 3 and 3. And then when you take, and I'll just do one of these because they're both the same. This sometimes is a lot easier to do than having to do all that. Okay? This works every time. Can't always factor everything. Okay? So that's the quadratic formula. It's important because it allows you a way to find x every time with a quadratic. Okay? Regardless of factoring and all that other stuff. So we'll look at this tomorrow, look at some examples, some application, and we got one more section. We'll wrap this up before the semester. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.